Let's say you just successfully robbed a bank. I mean, congratulations. You are now standing in the middle of your living room holding $2 million in cold, hard, physical cash. Right now, you probably feel like an absolute genius. But there's just one tiny nagging problem. You can't actually spend it. Seriously, you can't buy a house, you can't buy a luxury car, you couldn't even pay for a really extravagant dinner with your friends.
Because the second you try to buy anything significant, someone, whether it's a realtor, a car dealer, or a banker, is going to ask you this exact question. Hey, where'd you get all this money? And let me tell you, saying, oh, I just found it, is simply not going to cut it. This right here is the criminal underworld's oldest headache. How on earth do you spend the profits of a massive crime without instantly confessing to that crime? Well, the solution they came up with is clever, it's incredibly brazen, and it's so widely used, it is almost beautiful in its design. They call it money laundering.
Now, before we talk about washing the money, we have to understand why it's considered dirty in the first place. Dirty money is just cash that comes from illegal activity. We're talking drug sales, massive fraud, corruption, bribery, or tax evasion. Basically, the government didn't get their cut, and you definitely do not want them finding out about it. But here's the thing, money leaves a trail, it leaves a footprint. So, the entire goal of this illicit system is a complete transformation. You have to take money that practically screams, hey, I'm from a crime, and transform it into money that softly whispers, I'm totally normal, please don't look at me.
Okay, let's dive into this. To silence that criminal history, to completely erase those footprints, the money has to go through a very specific journey. Money laundering has three classic step-by-step stages: placement, layering, and integration. Pretty much every illicit dollar that makes its way into the legitimate economy goes through this exact three-step cycle.
Let's start with step 1, placement. Make no mistake, this is absolutely the riskiest move of the entire heist. You're holding a massive, highly suspicious pile of physical cash, and you need to sneak it into the legitimate financial system without anyone raising an eyebrow. Think about it. If you walk into your local bank branch carrying a duffel bag stuffed with $800,000 in small, unmarked bills, the bank teller is going to have some serious questions. And shortly after that, the FBI is going to have even more questions.
So, to avoid that immediate red flag, criminals have to work around one specific number: $10,000. In the United States, if you deposit this amount or more in physical cash, it triggers an automatic bank report straight to the government. It's essentially a built-in alarm system. Because of this, organized criminals have had to get very, very creative to bypass this exact threshold.
The classic method to beat that alarm is something called smurfing. And now, before you ask, we aren't talking about the little blue cartoon guys. Smurfing is when you take your giant pile of dirty cash and painstakingly break it into dozens of small, seemingly harmless deposits. So you might deposit $9,800 on a Monday, maybe $9,500 on a Tuesday, and $9,750 on a Wednesday. You spread it across multiple banks and multiple accounts. Sometimes crime syndicates literally hire low-level employees, called Smurfs, whose entire job is to physically drive from bank to bank, making these deposits. When you really think about it, it's tedious, it's incredibly slow, and it's honestly kind of just a boring desk job for a life of crime.
But hey, what if you don't want to hire a literal army of Smurfs? Well, the other massive placement method is using cash-intensive businesses. Criminals will buy or start up businesses that naturally handle a ton of physical cash every single day. We're talking restaurants, car washes, or really busy bars. Because it is incredibly hard for auditors to verify if every single cash sale was real, the criminals just mix their dirty money right in with the legitimate daily earnings. They pump up the numbers by claiming they serve, say, 400 fake customers, and then they just deposit the whole pile into the bank as completely normal business revenue.
Once the money is officially inside the banking system, we enter step 2, layering. But hold on, you aren't safe just yet. You need to make absolutely sure no one can trace those funds back to you or your initial crime. This is where the process gets either incredibly elegant or completely ridiculous, depending on your perspective. The whole goal of layering is to build a massive financial maze. You want to move the money around so many times, through so many different accounts and countries, that financial investigators completely lose the thread.
Just follow the dizzying timeline of a typical layered transaction. On day 1, you wire the money from your first bank to a company in a second country. On day 2, that company loans the money to another company in a third country. Day 3, it's loaned again. By day 4, it's invested in a completely different market in a fourth country. And finally, on day 5, it's sent back to your personal account in the first country as a completely mundane dividend payment. You are purposefully building a paper trail that goes absolutely nowhere.
After 5 or 6 rapid-fire international moves like this, even the most highly trained government investigators hit a brick wall.
And the absolute best tool for building this maze is the shell company. A shell company is essentially a ghost. It exists legally on paper. It has a name, a registered address, and a bank account. But in real life, it does absolutely nothing. There are no employees, there is no physical office, there are no actual products being sold. They act as the ultimate dead end for investigators. Because when law enforcement actually tries to find out who owns the money, they don't find a person. They just find a company, which is owned by another company, which is owned by a trust, managed by a lawyer, bound by strict client privilege.
Now, you might think these ghost companies only exist on remote tropical islands. And sure, the British Virgin Islands and the Cayman Islands are massive hotspots due to their strict bank secrecy laws. But, and this brilliantly illustrates the point, one of the biggest hubs is actually right here in the United States, Delaware. Literally, for just a few $100s, you can create a completely anonymous shell company in Delaware. And the real owner's name never even has to appear on any public document. Wild, right?
So, once you've successfully navigated that dizzying maze, you finally reach step 3, integration. Welcome to the finish line. The money was successfully placed into the system, it was layered beyond all recognition, and now it finally comes back to you. It's clean, it appears entirely legitimate, and it is finally ready to fund your brand new yacht, a luxury penthouse, or just a very relaxing, exceptionally well-funded retirement.
But how do they actually bring it back into their everyday lives? Mostly through massive high-end purchases. One of the biggest tricks out there is real estate. A criminal will use their anonymous shell company to buy a high-end luxury condo in Miami or London. They'll just hold it for a year, sell it, and boom, that dirty cash is now legally documented profit from a savvy property deal. Honestly, this is exactly why so many major cities are full of empty luxury flats owned by mystery corporations. It's terrible for everyday renters, but it's fantastic for crooks. Another favorite is the art world. You can buy a painting for $50 million. The art market is notoriously opaque. Nobody is rigorously checking if the painting is actually worth that much, and nobody is forcing you to disclose exactly where your funds came from. You buy the art, hang it on your wall, sell it later, and your income is absolutely pristine.
But let's take a quick step back from the mechanics for a second, because we really need a sobering reality check on the actual scale of this operation. $2 trillion. According to estimates by the United Nations, anywhere between $800 billion and $2 trillion is laundered globally every single year. Just to put that into perspective for you, that is roughly 2 to 5% of the entire global GDP. This isn't just a few bank robbers. This is a massive shadow economy operating right alongside our own.
The sheer, terrifying imbalance of this system is hidden in its success rate. Out of all the illicit money flowing through the global financial system every single year, investigators successfully seize roughly 1%. Just 1%. That means the criminals are operating this insanely complex machine with a 99% success rate.
Which brings us to this final thought. If literally any other legitimate industry on Earth had a 99% success rate, we'd call it an absolute miracle of modern efficiency. But in the world of high-level crime, they just call it Tuesday. The machine is working exactly as it was designed to. It kind of leaves you wondering, if the systems meant to catch this money are failing 99 times out of 100, are we actually trying to stop the laundering, or are we just watching it happen? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope it changed the way you look at the world around you.